Back here now on the GSMC Chip Shot Football Podcast to continue on with the second segment on the quarterback rankings that I have continued on throughout this week. Going into this one, we're going to go into the AFC North as a bit of a giveaway there with the number 4 ranked quarterback, but overall, I will start on the AFC North quarterback rankings. I got through the NFC. I've had a pretty tough time doing some of the NFC quarterback rankings. It was closer than I anticipated, but regardless of that, now we'll start again with the AFC North. And in my opinion, the toughest division in football. It has been for the last few years, and just watching it, being a fan of the Steelers, all these teams are probably in their best moment since I've started being a fan, where all these teams are really, really good. It's usually the Browns or the Bengals aren't that great, but all 4 of these teams have a lot of quality players. They're always in the playoff race. So it was very fun to try and rank these quarterbacks. So without further ado, just going back to the number 4 ranked quarterback I had on my list already, as you guys saw, Russell Wilson for the Pittsburgh Steelers. It just came down to the uncertainty around Russ, with his level of play. What quarterback are you expecting to get in 2024? On his resume, it is pretty impressive towards the earlier part of his career. He's made multiple Super Bowls. He won that one over the Denver Broncos, has played at a top level, was considered one of the best quarterbacks at the time when he was in his prime years with the Seattle Seahawks, with the Legion of Boom, and then a little bit afterwards where the pressure sort of fell on his shoulders to carry the burden of the whole organization. He did it very well. But then as it all developed, obviously he goes over to the Broncos. That whole situation blows up in the Broncos' face. They gave him a lot of money. It doesn't work out at all. And now he moves on to the Pittsburgh Steelers on a temporary deal. And that's where I get to my next point, where Russell Wilson is technically in a quarterback battle, depending on how you see it. I know Mike Tomlin has said he is the starter right now, but because there is that threat of Justin Fields, I found it hard to place him anywhere higher than 4 at the highest, or at 3, just because he might not be the starting quarterback at some point in this 2024 season. He will be 36 years old also in November, so that's also another thing. How does his body look? How does his level of play get affected by the years now on his NFL career? The arm is still there. He throws a beautiful deep ball. He is pretty precise compared to other quarterbacks that the Steelers have had, but his ability to extend plays and that magic that he used to create isn't really there, and that's not an indictment against Russell Wilson. That's just reality, how it goes as you get older, obviously. But for the Steelers, I think it'll be better than what they've had in the past. Over 3,000 yards, 26 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions this past year. Gives you some hope there, but still at number 4, he could be at the same level that he was last year, or he might not be, and he could get benched. That's why he fills in to my number 4 spot on the rankings. So moving on to number 3, we have the Cleveland Browns quarterback, Deshaun Watson. A pretty big year for Deshaun, in my opinion. I've said it before on this show. A prove-it year for him. He got that massive contract when he signed with the Cleveland Browns, or when he was traded to the Cleveland Browns. Then they extended him before he even played a single snap for them. Gave him one of the largest contracts ever. The most guaranteed money for a quarterback ever, if my memory serves me right. And he has only up to this point played 12 games for the Browns, just over 2,000 yards, 14 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions through 2 years. So that ratio isn't great. And also only playing 12 games in 2 years also isn't great. So he has had a bumpy start to his career as a Cleveland Browns quarterback, but he is entering now in a good period where he is entering those mature years where you'd expect these quarterbacks to be playing at their utmost talent and really at their prime years. He'll be 29 years old in September, so right as the season starts, and where this guy, Deshaun Watson, can hopefully, hunker down and be the guy in Cleveland, because if he can stay healthy, I think a lot of people believe that talent is still there. It's hard for me to say that it isn't, but at the same time, I want to see it, out on the field. When he has played, it hasn't looked particularly smooth out there for him as the quarterback. So if he stays healthy and he can iron out all these little issues, I think it could come well for the Cleveland Browns because they have the talent around them. So that also goes just into the final point with Deshaun, and the biggest point I want to make. There's so much talent around him. You know, he doesn't have the accolades maybe like Russell Wilson, so there could be an argument there where maybe Deshaun could be the fourth-ranked quarterback. But in terms of talent around him and where he is in his career right now, he does fit in at number 3. But with this amount of talent around him, you have the running back, the wide receivers now, the O-line's great, the defense is one of the best in the NFL. If you can't get it done with this team and stay healthy for a full year, you know, this decision to trade for him and give him that amount of money is going to be looked at as one of the worst contracts given out to a quarterback in recent memory. That's just how I feel about it. So he slots in at number 3 for me. Then at number 2, Lamar Jackson. A bit of a surprise, I would think, for a few people watching this and looking at these rankings. I am a big fan of Lamar now, more so than I was before, because before it seemed like he just was over dependent on his running ability. It just seemed like it was a bailout option whenever he couldn't read a defense right, or when all options broke down. He had this exceptional ability to just run out of the pocket and really be one of the hardest guys to tackle in the NFL. But now it seems like he got a lot more under control in 2023, and also just the throws that he was making, the arm strength, the precision also got a lot better. And I was pretty happy to see that, because with Lamar Jackson and how he fits into this Baltimore Ravens offense, you know, everything is sort of built around him. So to see that development, I think it has worked out very well for the Baltimore Ravens. And also the accolades speak for themselves. You know, 2 Pro Bowls, 2 MVPs, the second player ever to get a unanimous MVP award back in 2019. The only other player was Tom Brady, so in good company there. And also he's the youngest 2-time MVP since the NFL merger as well, just beating out Patrick Mahomes there in, you know, that race. But he really personifies this idea of creating something out of nothing, and just you combine that with the arm talent that he is now showing in some of the throws he makes, in some of the playbook being opened up for him a little bit with the options that he has now in Zay Flowers, and Mark Andrews is one of the most reliable targets as well. He has grown more into his passing ability, which is good to see, but now we're getting more into him, seeing him take this team where they should be, always in the playoff hunt, trying to get to the divisional round. I think with how good this Baltimore Ravens team is, not to mention you just add Derrick Henry as well, now the expectations sort of build on Lamar and on this team even more for me, because again, similar to Deshaun, the talent is there for Lamar to be able to get this team to the playoffs year in and year out at the minimum. Then you get into the higher standard of quarterbacks where you have to get to the AFC Championship game if, you know, you've won back-to-back MVPs or 2-time MVPs and you have all this level of skill around you. It's hard to come up with reasons why, you know, you don't get there or you can't find a way to get there. He has a 2-4 playoff record, which isn't great, and also he's yet to make a Super Bowl down the stretch. It always seems like there's something that goes awry, or maybe he makes a mistake here or there. There always seems to be something when he gets, just last year, to the AFC Championship game. If you look at that second half, it looked like there was just a lot of plays left out there for him to make. I was confused why they didn't run the ball a lot more. It seemed like he was overdoing the passing game and trying to beat the Kansas City Chiefs with his arm, where his greatest asset is his running ability. I know I just said he grew more into his arm and more into throwing the ball a lot more than just running it every time, but also you can't forget what got you to that point, and I think that sort of mistake there also entitled in with the offensive coordinator also not calling running plays for Lamar Jackson as well. That has to do with it. I thought that really just showed some level lacking for Lamar Jackson to really take that next step. You have to beat Patrick Mahomes. You have to beat these sort of quarterbacks, and Lamar Jackson is yet to do that in the playoffs. So with all the talent that he has and all the accolades, he still slides in at number 2 in my rankings, which means the number 1 quarterback in the AFC North. I stand by it, is Joe Burrow. The biggest thing with him, he just needs to stay healthy. That's the biggest issue up till now with Burrow. You know, during his first year and this recent year, he played only 10 games in those seasons, and Cincinnati missed the playoffs in both times. During year 2 and year 3, when he played in all 16 games for the Cincinnati Bengals, he made it to the Super Bowl in 1 year in 2021 and lost in the AFC Championship game in 2022. So that really, it doesn't get any clearer than that, where when he stays healthy and plays the entire year, you know, the Bengals make it really far and make it to the big game, at least in both times that he's gotten there, or just one step before that. He has a 5-2 playoff record, and he's the only quarterback to beat Patrick Mahomes, the only AFC quarterback to beat Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. The only other one was Tom Brady, so Joe Burrow is the only active one to do that to Patrick Mahomes. And also, in reverse, Patrick Mahomes is also the only quarterback to beat Joe Burrow in the playoffs. So it has taken the best quarterback of this generation to beat this guy in the playoffs. I don't think that's just by accident or by luck. In the big moments, it always seems like he has no fear about the moment. He knows exactly what to do. He's confident, and, you know, why wouldn't he be? He has the talent to get there, and he really, again, is the epitome of putting all the talent around him to use and getting to where people expect this team to be. When you have a Jamar Chase, when you have a T. Higgins, when you have a pretty underrated defense as well, you'd expect them to get into the playoffs. But then when you have a quarterback like Joe Burrow, to get over some of those humps and hurdles that you encounter along the way, that is the really resume that I want as the number 1 quarterback in this division. And has some also just physical traits also that I don't think a lot of people talk about. He is pretty fast when he gets out of the pocket, and he has good awareness to escape and extend plays as well, which I don't think a lot of people think about. But he really has a complete package where not one area is really lacking and is really dragging him down. He has the whole package. He just needs to stay healthy, and if he does that, with the easy schedule that the Cincinnati Bengals got this year, they are definitely in contention to be at the top of the AFC and make another deep playoff run, again, if Joe Burrow stays healthy. But that is my list of the AFC North quarterbacks. Let me know what you guys think of it. If you agree with the order, if you guys think I messed up somewhere along the way, leave it in the live chat box or in the comment section after the video has concluded. But that allows me to move on to the next break of the show. And when we come back, we'll talk about the NFL potentially playing their first game in a long time in Australia, potentially in 2025. I'll give you guys some early takeaways on the beginning days of the OTA period in the NFL. Plus, the Jaguars agreed to the new renovations of their stadium. It should all be ready by 2027, so I'll give you guys all the details on that story. But for now, we're going to head to a break, and we'll be right back in just a few seconds.